Hello everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie and I will be your astrologer today. Thank you for joining me. Yeah, super stoked to get into it. It is a very eventful week and I don't just mean that because of the holidays. We have a ton of stuff taking place. So stay tuned to the end. I'll talk about how the Saturn Uranus square is going to be affecting each and every one of the 12 signs, give you insight as to where fireworks are going to be taking place in your chart. We're going to talk a little bit about that transit and everything else leading up to the end of the year. Welcome back and thanks for joining. If you guys are new to my channel, please hit the bell button below and subscribe. Get the alerts as to when I put these videos out. Every week, usually Sunday, Monday, we have a video that drops for the most important astrological transits for the week ahead. We cover things like new moons, full moons, eclipses, major transits, all the good stuff. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get into it. So today is the 20th of December. I guess the big news for today, move my clock back, sorry guys, is it's the last day of Sagittarius season, and we also have Mercury in Capricorn in a trine to Uranus in Taurus. So innovative, quick moving, plans change pretty quickly. Sometimes we're gonna see that we have to kind of pivot a little bit when it comes to our plans, whether that's just staying on task, how we communicate, sharing ideas. The nice thing is that with Mercury in a trine to Uranus, I think it gives us the opportunity to make tweaks and adjustments. Certainly Mercury in Capricorn can be a little rigid. It wants to kind of stay on time, or it has a tendency to want to do things in a timely manner. But Uranus is just saying like, we're going to upend that. So maybe you guys have seen that kind of happening yesterday and today. Maybe your schedule's been a little different, something's been tweaked, or there's just really unexpected sudden exchanges of information. That email that comes out of the blue, the conversation that takes you by surprise. I'm liking that it's at 11 degrees though, because it gives us the opportunity to talk about how to better work together or find something that works for everybody involved. It's an Aquarian degree when it's at 11. So it's interesting that also Mercury is getting into some of the degrees here in the next week or two of where it will retrograde through. So if there's one kind of phrase that I can put on the week ahead and really like the next month ahead is like, we're in Saturn's territory. This is Saturn land. Notice we've got Mercury and Pluto and Venus, and soon the sun will move into Capricorn. We've got Saturn and Aquarius. We're seeing Saturn Uranus squares. Very, very, very Saturn for the rest of December and really into January. So that'll materialize as things like, you know, are we showing up? Are we doing our best work? Are we staying on time? Do we have a goal in mind? And the truth is that both with conjunctions to Pluto this week and also with retrogrades that will be happening going into the new year, we're reorganizing, restructuring. It almost feels to me like our New Year's resolutions may be a bit kind of discombobulated. We may feel like what we planned on doing still needs to be refined and worked, especially when it comes to our career goals, when we're going back to work, how we're going back to work, and certainly the role that the world powers or governments play in dictating what we can and cannot do when it actually comes to business. So this is something else I want you guys to watch for, because with all the conjunctions to Pluto and these retrogrades, it tells me, I don't think it's going to go the way we think it's going to go. You guys may be surprised to see that in the weeks ahead, and I've been saying this in a lot of my other videos, we are going to have, I think, some situations unfold where we realize we don't have as much control, or we don't have as much freedom as we thought we may going into 2022. So we'll talk about that also in my year ahead that I'm going to do on New Year's. But we're just going to feel this energy shift when all of these planets are hanging out in the sign of Capricorn. Now, tomorrow is winter solstice. So we're going to see that the sun is going to ingress into Capricorn. Woo! So here in the northern hemisphere, it is winter time. It is the beginning, the initiation of moving towards, you know, all of these Capricorn things, structure, organization, commitment, our goals. It's interesting to me, especially here in the northern hemisphere, you know, we have Christmas and it's like the sun is in Capricorn and we have all these planets that usually Mercury, Venus follows. There's a lot of like wrapping up the end of the year, but the Earth is actually in Cancer. So we're actually doing it from home. So there can be like this theme of like maybe working from home towards the end of the year, visiting home, reorganizing home, restructuring your home and your goals. I love this period of time for this. So once again, take a look at where Capricorn is in your chart, but an awesome way to wrap up the year and strategize where we would like to be in a couple months' time. At least that's how I'm using it. I encourage you guys to do the same, especially if you are a cardinal sign. You're really going to be feeling the effects of some of these transits over the next couple of days. But when the sun moves into Capricorn, we start the beginning of Capricorn season, but Capricorn is a cardinal sign, so it's initiating something, some kind of goal. So you might kind of feel right around the shift this week, okay, that's it, this needs to start, this needs to end, this needs to be cleaned up, this needs to change. And I guess the positive side of Capricorn is that it is goal-oriented. It wants to be able to complete a task, or it wants to be able to be on top. The more challenging energies of this is it is very Saturn-based. So there can feel like a heaviness, a restriction, a lot of work to finish up towards the end of the year, a lot of moving things around, having meetings, having to talk to people, responsibilities, especially if it involves work. It can also involve parenting or anything related to running your own business or taking care of elderly parents or responsibility, right? That's Capricorn. So Capricorn, when it kind of gets miffed, it can feel like, oh, it's always me. I'm the one carrying the team. So one thing you want to watch out for are, especially with the retrogrades coming, some of the heavier kind of vibes from Capricorn. You want to watch out for like resentment or bossiness or coming on a little too strong. Certainly a lot of what we're going to be looking at over the next year, really we've done it all year, but over the next month, excuse me, is going to be our relationship with power and control, both in our own lives and what we can or cannot control, whether we do or do not want to let things control us anymore, whether that's like toxic relationships or scarcity or fear, who is controlling us, who is dictating what we can and cannot do. Huge themes that are going to be going on in the weeks ahead. And I would say because the micro affects the macro, we want to be looking at this in our own personal lives of what we can and cannot control and what we actually want to let go of trying to force or make happen. That's the beauty of these retrogrades that are going to constantly go back and forth, and kind of planets will kiss Pluto a couple times. It'll say, okay, it's time to kiss this goodbye. Instead of saying like, kiss my ass, right? Venus Pluto or Mercury Pluto can be very much like, kiss my ass, I quit, or I'm done. But we want to focus more on the beauty of Pluto, when we let something end, it's only then that something new can begin. So certainly a lot of people are going to be facing some very difficult things over the next month or two with like, do I let my career die off? Do I let this relationship unravel? Do I let this obsession or this addiction or fear run my life? And that's something that I really want you guys to be aware of when we're having conjunctions to Pluto. However, Capricorn season is going to give us a little bit of an extra oomph, I think, with the sun being there. That's really going to highlight some of these themes in our life of what we can and cannot allow to kind of run the show any longer. Now, winter solstice is an awesome time to kind of balance out these energies, really focus on what we want to start new in the spring. So think of like the cardinal signs, it starts with Aries. That's the astrological new year. We start things that are new. We're also going to see then we will ingress into Cancer, and that is what's kind of what we're emotionally nurturing. Libra is how we're finding balance and working with other people, and Capricorn is like, okay, we want to see everything kind of come together. So while I do see the opportunity for us to make headway, I'm also looking at major shifts that are going to be happening in the spring next year. We're going to see that Jupiter will fly through the sign of Pisces and move into Aries, initiating something new. We're going to have tons of conjunctions in Capricorn really up until about March. We're also going to have tons of conjunctions in Pisces really until April and May. So the way that I look at it is, you can't force anything right now. You can't force healing, you can't force endings, you can't force people unless they're really ready to. Unfortunately, part of the beauty of Pluto is that we realize that sometimes things can finally hit that turning point where there's no turning back. For some people, in regards to their careers, Capricorn, they will realize that once we get into the new year, they may have no other choice but to let something go, especially professionally or in a sense of responsibility. So I would just say, be mindful that right now it's all about strategizing. It's also becoming aware of what's not working. So then once we get into the new year and we get into February, March, we're really working with the energies of Pisces and Jupiter in Pisces and Neptune in Pisces and the conjunction of our visions for the future. A lot of new things may really be starting actually in April, May of 2022. So a lot of you guys are like, I want to launch businesses. I'm going to launch my business on New Year's Day. I would say, don't. We're going to be in the midst of still a lot of things needing to be organized and a lot of things needing to be strategized before we're taking initiation in the spring. So really work with the energy of just like letting the year wind down. If somebody's going to be a hot mess, let them be a hot mess. If something's not working, let it fall apart. Only then we can rebuild. All right, so we get into the 22nd of this week. Nothing too crazy happening. The moon's going to move into Leo, and we're going to see the moon come into an opposition with Saturn. That's an important thing to watch for, because off the bat, we're starting with Saturn season, Capricorn season, which is a Saturn sign, with moon opposed Saturn. So there's going to be some kind of limitations that are kind of being put in place that people are going to go, I don't like that. Moon opposes Saturn, we feel the restriction, and then it's going to square Uranus. So I'm interested to see what's going to be happening in the next 2 days. I feel like it's going to be a time to really watch. I'm anticipating to hear on Tuesday, what Biden has to say about just his speech regarding what's going on, just the state of the pandemic. I'm assuming it's going to be something like, well, these are the steps that we're taking. This is what we're putting in place. We're going to keep an eye on it. We don't want to shut down the holidays. We don't want to shut down New Year's. But if we get to certain situations in the new year, this is what we're facing. So I'm just going to kind of put it out there in a way where it's like, perhaps part of what he's telling people is what may take place, but I think they're going to delay it, right? So I'm not expecting any crazy changes too much, but we'll have to wait and see. Certainly, I think a lot of people are not going to be entirely too thrilled just looking at the state of the moon of what's going on the 22nd. On the 23rd, once again, not too much happening. We've got the moon then that moves into an opposition with Jupiter. Jupiter is in the final degrees of Aquarius before it ingresses and moves into Pisces. So in that sense, I feel like there is some hope, there is some optimism. We have already started the Venus retrograde. It actually started over the weekend, and we're watching Venus now coming into what will be its second conjunction with Pluto. So when Venus started slowing down, she had spent an extended period of time conjunct Pluto, moved forward a degree, now she's moving back. So you guys are going to really start feeling that Venus-Pluto conjunction on the 23rd quite strongly. I think the other thing that I would say is that at least we've got the moon in a fire sign, right? And I guess that's the benefit of the day, is that it's going to keep things kind of moving. Moon will have been in a trine to Mars, really the 22nd and the 23rd, so we're action motivated. Then on the 24th, or I should say Christmas Eve, sparks are going to be flying. This is going to be the third of several this year, and the final Saturn Uranus square. So we're going to talk about this a little bit. Last time we had the Saturn Uranus square, it was back in February and also I believe June of 2021. I am waiting for this one because this is like the finale that I was saying that's going to take place at the end of 2021. I think that the third square is really going to set things off in a very big way. We look at Saturn and Aquarius, which is the people, right? Aquarius is the people, but Saturn is social limitation, social structures, technology, things relating to social isolation. We've seen that on and off since Saturn went into Aquarius in 2020. But with the squares to Uranus is kind of like this upending of financial situations and financial markets. So we saw like the rise of the Robin Hood stuff that took place in the spring. We saw all kinds of peaks and valleys with cryptocurrency, and now inflation, which has been kind of the big news over the last couple of weeks. Certainly this is going to hit a peak point, right? So when Saturn squares off with Uranus, I always tell my clients it's kind of something like putting a man in a suit and a kid with a mohawk in a room and just like letting them go at it. And they're going to go back and forth and kind of state their cases for where we need innovation and where we totally need to disrupt the system versus what actually needs to be maintained and what the structures of society needs to be. And they're going to kind of duke it out. So if you think back to what was happening in February, what was happening in June, in your own personal lives, especially if you have any planets anywhere around, I would say 10 to 13 degrees of the fixed signs, watch out. This can definitely be a Christmas to remember. On the positive side, I feel like it'll materialize as something like we're doing something different for the holidays this year. We're kind of upending tradition. So if you've always gone to your parents' house for Christmas or the holidays, you may opt not to. If you are facing some kind of actual social limitation or weather limitation, you may find, you know what, it's easier just to stay home and Zoom with friends and family. You may actually go and spend the holidays with friends. You may opt to not see people, period. So there's some kind of theme of the holidays being very different this year. Certainly coming off of a year of having the pandemic and just the effects of now going on 2 years of what's been major challenges for a lot of people financially. Christmas is going to be different this year, you know, and I think that that's maybe the positive side of this is that Saturn square Uranus, we have a lot to be thankful for. We may not be seeing the really lavish Christmas gifts. We may not be seeing a lot going on in regards to the traditions that we usually have. We may not be having the big parties, but we are aware of the really solid friendships that we have. Maybe Christmas cards are going to go a long way as gifts this year, especially if people aren't able to afford gifts. I feel like there's going to be a lot more reaching out and showing appreciation. So our values are changing with Saturn square Uranus, and I've seen a lot of really interesting things as like gifts already this year. I think we're going to see a major rise maybe in smaller businesses and people opting to shop and be buying gifts from Etsy, and people who are, self-employed, like giving those kinds of gifts or giving group gifts. I think that could be something else. I see Saturn square Uranus as like it's going to be some very heated Monopoly matches and board game matches with families over the weekend. I think it could be a lot of people who are just kind of like, fuck this, like flipping over like board games and stuff. And then in the midst of all of this, at the time, we also have Venus going retrograde conjuncting Pluto. So that in itself is very explosive because it's Venus backtracking, conjuncting Pluto, showing us where there's this immense potential for, on one hand, going deeper in love and relationships. It's very sexy with Pluto conjunct Venus. It does represent the possibility of connecting deeper in a sense of intimacy and things that can be very meaningful. But it can also be kind of peppered with like a lot of like marital issues, okay? And so it's not just because it's the holidays and people are stressed out or maybe your in-laws are over. Venus-Pluto conjunctions, especially if you are a Venus-ruled sign, so Libras and Tauruses are going to feel this a lot more strongly, where it may be hard to keep the peace. And being peaceful and being able to connect in a positive, kind of harmonious manner it just may not happen sometime between Christmas Eve and New Year's. So you guys are going to feel that a little bit more strongly. Venus retrograding back to Pluto is going to bring us back to the last time that we had Venus and Pluto meet. Let me grab that date for you guys real quick. So that was the first time that Venus hit 25 degrees. So think about whatever was going on around December 9th. So it was only a couple weeks ago, December 9th through like the 12th. So it may be the second chapter to that, right? I also feel like that's going to be a lot of information coming out about budgets, budgets relating to big businesses, government spending, stuff relating to this potential infrastructure bill and whether or not it gets killed off and it can't be agreed upon. I also feel like this is going to be a time where on the flip side, there can be people who are going completely haywire, dipping very deep into their pockets, paying for big, expensive, lavish gifts, or putting it on cards when they really can't afford it. So it's going to be interesting to look at Christmas because people are going to respond either one of two extreme ways. It's going to be like, look, we're going to have like a little bit more of just a kind of bare bones Christmas and really focus on what we can give or make for each other, what we can share with each other. I posted something on my stories the other day that was like normalize giving recipes that you pass down from your family, or sourdough starters, or you know, something so somebody can start a garden. These are very Saturn square Uranus type gifts. Versus Venus Pluto is like, oh my God, you know, I just put a down payment on a card for a new Lexus, and it's in the front, you know, driveway, Merry Christmas, but I don't know how I'm going to pay for it type stuff. So we're going to see two very different things that are going to kind of materialize as a result of this particular square. Like I said, when it comes to the Saturn-Uranus squares, certainly the fixed signs, so Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius are going to get hit the hardest. So if you are a sun, moon, or rising, really pay attention for that. And I would say roll with the punches of whatever is changing. In regards to relationships and finances, those of you guys who are cardinal signs, so the Aries, the Cancers, the Libras, the Capricorns, especially if you're in the late degrees. So if you are anywhere, I would say about maybe 23 to 29 degrees, you're going to be feeling this the hardest. And that's where there's going to be the most intense kind of power plays that are going on. So always look at your rising sign to see how it physically materializes. Look at your sun sign to see how it's affecting you personally, or even your ego. If you're not aware of how to do that, you can check out a birth chart calculator online for free, or you can book a reading with me. All right, so Christmas is going to be a little wild, obviously, those of you guys who celebrate that holiday, especially because the actual Pluto-Venus conjunction doesn't start till Christmas Day. Now, on one hand, it can be, I think of like the ghosts of Christmas past, right? The ghosts of ex-boyfriends and girlfriends past coming up. People calling because they're lonely, you know, people who are calling from the past and reaching back out, or wanting to show up and bringing you gifts. And that can be very intense. People may find that they're very obsessive about the past or past relationships, or there is some Pluto thing where I could also see, like, you know, with Juno being in the mix and Mercury being in the mix really all month long, a lot of people who have not exactly been the most faithful in relationships, I think, may kind of come to light. The whole point of a retrograde is to kind of drudge all of this stuff up, especially the past. So the positive side is like, okay, we're going to talk about it. We're going to clear it out. And like, we're going to let the past be in the past. We're done with that, with those emotions, those feelings, those relationships. On the flip side, if you have a revolving door type situation with people, or maybe you're in a relationship and you've allowed people to kind of interfere, or if people have not been faithful, it is going to be a very rocky next couple of weeks ahead, because I think between Mercury and Juno being there, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be hearing from people from the past. It can upset spouses or partners. I also feel like when the sun shows up eventually down the road, which isn't going to be until January, we are going to start seeing more of this stuff kind of coming to light. Now, for right now, I would say it's important to just be mindful that, you know, to some extent, the past really does do better staying in the past, and like releasing it and letting it go is a good thing. So there can be opportunities to say that's over, we're done, or I'm blocking that person, or we're not going back, or we've had our time. That's the more kind of positive way to use this energy. So just be mindful that the past may be calling. On the flip side, it can be a lot of like bosses who are having meltdowns towards the end of the year and reaching back out to employees and going, please, I'll do whatever it takes. Please don't leave. Can you stay? I need you. The team needs you. Would you be willing to come back? A lot of negotiating. There's going to be power plays revolving around money. I think a lot of businesses are getting to the end of the year and they're realizing that like they may not have done as well as they thought. So come the new year, there's going to be budget cuts and all kinds of limitations. And I'm still anticipating more either layoffs, or there's going to be issues also from the Saturn-Uranus square revolving around unions and unions walking out, right? I think of like what's been going on with, I think it's Kellogg's or the cereal company, where they let a bunch of people go and they just let them go. And apparently they're going to be like rehiring. So food distribution issues will continue. Issues relating to whether or not we have enough of things, especially right around the holiday season. There's going to be this uptick of like what we can and cannot get, especially certain foods. I was laughing. I was watching, reading an article, I think it was last week, where it was talking about like Philadelphia, like the cream cheese company. Apparently there's a cream cheese shortage. And something about them offering some like initiative basically where they're giving out either coupons or something to encourage people not to make cheesecakes over the holiday season. Venus retrograde, Venus conjunct Pluto. Please don't make this sweet. I'll give you, you know, $20-something to just make something else or get another dessert. we're going to see more of this stuff. And also people are going to be really obsessive about what they can and cannot get, or what they can and cannot give as gifts. So these are some things that we're going to see over the next couple weeks. Imagine there's a lot of bagel shops probably on the East Coast. They're just like freaking out. All right, so then on the 26th this week, we're going to see that Mercury in Capricorn forms a sextile to Neptune in Pisces. It's great for having emotional conversations and being able to talk about feelings, because I feel like Capricorn's very structured, and because it knows where it wants to go, it has a plan. Neptune can help kind of blend with that and go, I could see that happening, and I feel like it would be better like this, or I would feel like it'd be better like that. So it's a great way to work with the elements of earth and water to be able to make magic happen and help build a solid plan for the future based off of how we're feeling, or based off of what we see, or our intuition. On the flip side, I look at that and go, sextiles are also really easy energy, so it can blend a little too much. So there can be a sense, especially as Mercury is coming into conjunction with Pluto and it will retrograde, that governments or people of authority or companies or businesses are going to tell people certain things that they're going to go back on. So it'll be things like, no, I think it's going to be okay. We'll be fine. Don't worry. You'll be in the office, you know, January, whatever. And then we're going to get to the new year, and then it's going to be like, and no, we're not. Actually, the schedule's changing. You're still working from home. Or actually, it turns out we can't keep you. We have to let you go type stuff. So be careful whose advice you buy with that sextile. I'm trying to be optimistic about it, but I'm not too wild now that Mercury's getting into the shadow. Another big news is going to be on the 27th. Final day of having Jupiter in Aquarius. Party hard, have a good time. Right before Saturn, Jupiter is going to move out of what has been a Saturn sign, which has been very limiting for us this year. If you guys saw earlier in the spring, it was like, I think April, May, that's when Jupiter made its first ingress into Pisces before it retrograded back. It didn't stay for very long. So if you guys want to see what my predictions are for Jupiter and Pisces, if you want to see how it's going to affect your personal chart, go into my video list, go and look at Jupiter and Pisces. I did a whole like hour-plus video talking about my predictions and what that may bring. On one hand, Jupiter loves being in Pisces because it has no limitations. It can go wherever it wants. So to some extent next year, we may see a pop in hotels, foreign travel, cruises, things like that. Spirituality will be at an all-time high. People are going to get more into learning about meditation, mental health awareness, mental health, learning more and exploring more about the spirituality, the auric field, metaphysics. So if you're into that stuff, it's going to be like killer the first couple months of the year. Very spiritual. But on the flip side, it's going to be like a lot of people who want to get lost in illusions. So we may see a sense of an uptick in issues with mental health problems, addiction, alcoholism, people who are also just having episodes, spiritual episodes. I think spiritual ascension is going to be a big theme next year, and you're going to see a lot of people maybe not manage it very well, because when Jupiter's in you know, Pisces, it has no boundaries. So we're going to see all kinds of issues with, well, how much is too much? And moderation is going to be a thing that we might kind of lose sight of. So I'll talk more about that. I think I'm going to do a follow-up video once we actually get Jupiter back in Pisces. That's when I would probably rather talk about it. So I'll do that at some point in the future. But yeah, pay attention to where that is happening in your chart. It's very feminine. So I think the other thing is the next 2 or 3 months, I'm excited to see new music coming out, new art coming out, new spiritual leaders. And I think we're just going to see an uptick in just spirituality. Granted, those who are already really fixated on their beliefs, right, Jupiter's beliefs, will get stronger. So those who are super religious are going to get even crazier. You're going to see people running around like the end is near, you know, like... I'm sorry, it's just when I see that, it makes me laugh. Like, the end is near, you know, people being like, and we've been saying this for years. People have been saying this for years, prophesizing the end of the world. But you're going to see a lot of people in specific religions that are really convinced that it's happening, especially when we start seeing flooding and all kinds of other things that are going to happen with Jupiter and Neptune getting together. But also, we're going to see, I think, an uptick in like cults and cult activity. It's already happening with Venus conjunct Pluto. So we're going to see a lot of people turning to psychedelics, ayahuasca. Not that that's cult-like, but people can become very cult-like in their practice. So those who have already kind of gone down the rabbit hole or drank the Kool-Aid will become even more fixated on that. So that's something else that we kind of want to watch for, is kind of finding the middle ground and practicing moderation before we get into March and people really start kind of believing in whatever their spiritual advisors or their therapists or their pastors or heck, even their astrologers are telling them. So it's going to get a little wild next year. But yeah, Jupiter moving into Pisces, I think for the most part, you know, it's going to blend really nicely with aspects to Capricorn. So Capricorn's going to kind of at least kind of keep it structured if it can, so it doesn't get out of hand. All right. So that's leading us really up until next week. So I'll be back next week. I might do things a little different. I think that what I'm going to do is I will talk about those of you guys who watched my channel, you know that I have a tendency the last week of the month to talk about the month ahead. I'm going to do a recap, I think, a little bit of 2021 and just kind of what has happened in preparation for going into 2022. I'll talk a little bit about January because there's definitely some big things happening, although I do talk about a lot of the transits of January in the Pluto return video for America, so check that out. Also, if you guys want to know more about what's going on with the Venus retrograde in Capricorn, I did a video on that, I think a week or two ago. There's one on my podcast that's all about the Venus retrograde in Capricorn that I did with the Peace Dealer that's out. And if you're watching this, there is a new Midheaven podcast video that's out that's all about Capricorn season and what we may expect. And we go deep all the way into January. So if you can't wait for next week, you can go and watch those videos if that interests you. So I want to talk to you guys really quickly just about where the Saturn Uranus squares are happening in your horoscope, so you know where the fireworks may be taking place. It's my perspective that when you've got Saturn and Uranus in a square, Uranus is going to win because I think that's going to be where you're going to have the pop that's going to happen in this particular transit. For most people, you know, you may see a situation where if you're a very Saturn-based person or you're a Capricorn or you're an Aquarius, or, you know, you've got a really heavily placed Saturn in your chart, you may try to buckle down and not let loose. But I want to remind everybody that the whole purpose of 2021, these Saturn-Uranus squares, are for 2022. In the spring, Saturn's going to square the nodes. It's going to force us to do wherever Aquarius is and to kind of abide by the new Aquarian lifestyles that we're moving into. Changes in technology, social limitation, us being separate, changes in the internet. And then finally, in the summer, I believe it's in August, we're going to see the North Node conjunct Uranus. So get with the program. We have to learn how to do both of these things. Both of these two squares can coexist if it's in alignment, right? If it works. So listen to your rising sign to see where the Saturn-Uranus square is happening. And I'll also let you know where Pisces is in your chart so you can see where you're getting new cosmic goodies from Jupiter. All right. So Aries and Aries rising, Saturn's in your 11th house of friendships. This is also about your goals and who you're aligning yourself with, who you're networking with. And you've got Uranus in your 2nd house. I feel like for Aries, this is going to be possibly an eye-opening time where you figure out who your friends are, who you value the most. There can be issues revolving around lending or borrowing happening with friendships that I would watch out for. Not basing friendships off of who gives you what, you know, oh, this person gave me this expensive gift and this person, you know, didn't do anything. So, I mean, do they even, are we even friends anymore? You want to watch out for those traps because that can be some stuff that can be happening. I feel like also it's going to be about reevaluating what your friendships bring to your life and who brings value to your life, right? Like who is valuable, not just in a financial sense, although, you know, Uranus and Taurus is changes in values. And you may realize that some of the people who you thought were going to stick around this year are gone. And the people who you didn't necessarily think were going to hang around are still there. And so you're reevaluating some of your friendships. That's the vibe that I'm getting. You may also talk a lot with another person about making changes in how you're spending your money, how you're investing your money. You may find yourself at a holiday party where people are talking about cryptocurrency, what they've made, what they've invested in, and it may change your perspective on something. So your values may change because of that. You may try a new food or have a friend convince you of a dietary change. And they may be like, yeah, I've been, you know, vegan for the last 6 months and this is what changed. And you'd be like, wow, like maybe I want to make those changes too, because it can definitely affect what you're putting in your body. Jupiter's moving into your 12th house. Great time eventually next year to possibly consider going deeper into a spiritual belief system, traveling to foreign places, learning more about meditation. It may be a real uptick also in intuition and really significant dreams that may be coming for you as well. Jupiter will be there for a short period of time before then crossing into Aries, which will happen, I think, next spring, which will be interesting for Aries because there's a lot of visualizing the life that you want, and then you'll feel this shift as soon as Jupiter goes into your personal sign, and you're going to be like, okay, now. I don't remember who I heard that was talking about it, but they were talking about like the year that Nike came out with its like logo, or like maybe it was when they started, I'm not sure. The Just Do It campaign, Jupiter and Aries. So if you have Jupiter and Aries, you know what I'm talking about. You're like, okay, you know what? No more thinking. Let's just go. So something about that for you makes me feel like there's a lot of visualizing until you get to that point. But Jupiter is going to move into Aries right around May of 2022, and Mars will ingress as well. So for you, it's very much getting your spiritual stuff in alignment and really visualizing where you would like to be in about 5 or 6 months' time. Four of Cups, kind of building off of what I said, where I was like, you know, don't look at things as like what I don't have, what I didn't get, what didn't happen, what they didn't give me. Not focusing on things that didn't pan out or didn't work out. There can be a sense of dissatisfaction, I think, happening right now, especially with the squares happening in your second house of resources. Watch out for like comparing what other people got. I think about all the retrogrades in your 10th house where maybe you get bummed out because you're like, somebody got, you know, a raise, or somebody got more of a bonus than I did, and then it creates some kind of strife, right? There's something like that that can be happening. A lot is being reorganized for you right now when it comes to your career and your life. And I would say focus more on where you're going, not what has not been panning out for you, or what did not happen, or what you did not receive, okay? Taurus and Taurus rising, you've got Saturn that is in your 10th house of career, and you've got Uranus in your first house. Nobody can tell you nothing. You may not be the easiest person to spend the holidays with. There is going to be a sense of you wanting freedom, or wanting to run the show, or wanting to dictate how things are going to go down right around the end of this month. And you may find that you're breaking with tradition in some way. So if you're a Taurus that's always gone home for Christmas and been with your family, you might be like, I'm not doing it this year. There may be a sense of you really starting the year off being like, that's it. I really want to go full throttle, full steam ahead with my career. I don't want to work for other people anymore. So there's some sense of Uranus on your ascendant, which is great, becoming more authentic and more forward thinking about the future. But Saturn in the 10th house tells me that there's restriction and limitation. So for some Tauruses, it'll be things like, I really want to be self-employed, but I need to have a job because I have kids and I'm a parent, right? Saturn in the 10th. It can also be things like, you know, you're still having to wrap up in the next couple of weeks ahead a job that you've been working on, or maybe you're planning on quitting your job so you can start your own thing, but you feel bogged down and limited. So you become like kind of reactionary or resentful from responsibilities. Some of you guys may have beef with your parents. I would say watch out for that. There can be some family drama that can happen, and you may take people back a little bit by your behavior because you're kind of just wanting to do something different and you're breaking free. Saturn Uranus is literally like bends until it snaps. So watch for really making real significant cuts and severances from either superiors, parents, you know, jobs. Can be a lot. Now Jupiter's in your 11th house, so where you have a beneficial thing going on is like Jupiter's going to move into a part of your chart that's going to bring you more friends. They're going to be different. They're going to be otherworldly. They're going to be spiritual. They're going to be from different places, and they're connected, right? Because it's Jupiter. And Jupiter is going to sextile Uranus on your ascendant. So you're going to start meeting people who are like-minded. They may also be self-employed or kind of in the business that you're getting into. So that's very beneficial for you, Taurus. 10 of Cups. Well, it looks like peace can be achieved, which is surprising for me, to be honest with you, with Venus and Pluto doing its thing in your 9th house. I feel like it's really about you not traveling this year. Or not going where you're used to going, but at the same time finding peace and happiness and fulfillment. And maybe you're feeling like You can still have the experience of feeling like you're with family. Maybe you're going to be Zooming with them and not actually physically with them. Maybe you're having Christmas in a different place than you usually do, but they're still there. Happiness is possible. There is some joy that's going to come about for you, I think, right around the end of this month. And it's going to be realizing like, hey, yeah, there's a lot of responsibility, but I work hard for it. So I work hard to launch that business. I worked hard to find success. I work hard to take care of my family or put food on the table. So there is some sense of people having a lot more appreciation and admiration for your hard work all year long. So it's really good. For Gemini and Gemini rising, this is Saturn in your 9th house, and this is Uranus in your 12th house. To me, the square makes me feel like or make or break situation when it comes to your faith. And I think that's a big one right now. Just the fact that the North Node has been, you know, in your sign. Now it's getting ready to go to your 12th house pretty soon. So I think it's kind of highlighting the fact that you can either have a breakdown or a breakthrough, you know? And Saturn hanging out in your 9th house is making you commit to either something with publishing, law, travel, your belief systems, especially Saturn and Aquarius is like, you know, whether you're believing in Uranian things, maybe you're starting to believe more about metaphysics or more in regards to astrology. And that square with Uranus in your 12th house is like your intuition is kicking in. You're having all kinds of significant visions and things. So it's really opening stuff up and getting you to realize that you need more of a spiritual routine in order for you to start integrating the changes in your life that you need to be making. Now you've got Jupiter moving into your 10th house. So those of you guys who are involved in film, law, education, spirituality, these Geminis are going to do very well because Jupiter moving into your 10th house may almost feel like there's some dream scenarios that are playing out for you in this next year. Wonderful time to see lots of career advancement. I also get the impression that it's just like, you know, learning to not count your chickens before they hatch. Certain things have to come together as a result of this square before you can come out with the good news that I'm feeling like is going to come for you in the spring. Queen of Pentacles. So to me, this is like being on top of your money, being on top of your business, bringing in abundance, maybe working with a very powerful partner. If you are a woman, this is a really powerful time in your career. It can also be about parenting, but I feel like Jupiter going into your 10th house is more kind of talking about a powerful time where you're merging with another person, right? Jupiter rules your 7th. So some Geminis will get married. Some will start businesses with their partners. Some will take on a new business partner. Some will start managing very famous people. You start making more money and you're feeling like, wow, I believe this into existence. So it's all about what you're believing and watching things materialize. Look for earth sign women or powerful, strong women who come in who want to help support you or partner with you or bankroll or finance something or manage money in the process. All right, this is for Cancer and Cancer rising. You got Saturn in your 8th house squaring off with Uranus in your 11th house. Wowzers. Many Cancers that I've seen have been working hand in hand really hard, working with friends or working with a group. And some of you guys have been bankrolling your own projects. And so there can be a little bit of a balancing act when it comes to your own resources. And Cancer, your partners may be a little bit kind of on your tail and saying to you, you know, is this thing that you're doing with your buddy really going to take off? You know, are you guys ever going to make money? Are we going to be able to pay the bills? And you're chasing this dream and you're building something with another person. Or on the flip side, it can be this bend and break that's happening where partners can be really kind of getting on your case about whether or not you're friends with something or there's something more. So if you're a Cancer who's in a committed relationship and you have something kind of sexual going on or vice versa, there can be some finding out that whoever you're partnering, whoever you're working with, your partner may think that there's something else going on that's not so savory. Whether it's a extramarital relationship or just that you're spending more money and not telling your spouse about it. So watch for that. Cancers, you don't need me to tell you, with Venus and Pluto in your house of relationships right now, relationships are very sensitive. So I would say really watch your butt and how you're interacting with other people. You want to kind of stay away from sexual relationships if they're just friends, because it can get you in some hot water. You do have Jupiter going into your 9th house, which on one hand is wonderful if you're wanting to travel, if you want to publish something, if you have a book coming out, if you want to write a book, if you want to get a literary agent. It can amplify issues, though, relating to the 9th house as well, which is an excessive amount of travel, an excessive amount of legal situations, legal bills. I would say you want to use it more in a spiritual sense. You know, thankfully it's a sister sign, so I do feel like it's going to be good for you. But I feel like you can go on long voyages, or there can be long periods of time before a book actually gets published or before you complete a program. I'm a little weary about Saturn in your 8th house squaring with the 11th. I feel like you need to have a plan when it comes to bankrolling some of your projects, and be careful with lending money to friends. 3 of Wands, you have a plan, you're going places. To me, it looks like maybe this is about how you guys are opting to discuss how you're going to pay for a trip. So if you're going on a trip with a partner, if you're going on a trip with a friend, it's how you're going to, you know, pay for it, how you're going to handle the expenses, especially if you're going somewhere. Like, let's say you're like, we're filming a documentary, or we're going on a book tour or whatever. Okay, how do we pay for it? There's something about covering expenses associated with travel or getting to your goal, okay? Leo and Leo rising, for you, this is going to be your 7th house. So this is dealing with Saturn in your 7th, squaring Uranus in your 10th. Leo and Leo rising are going to have big changes in relationships. And this is going to be happening in a very big way over the next 2 months, okay? You've got this square, then you've also got a Mercury retrograde in your 7th. That's going to happen the end of January. So some of you guys will break through. I've seen many Leo risings that go back and forth with like a really difficult partner, and they finally are going to come to terms and go, no, we are going to get married. We're going to do this. We're going to see this all the way through. There's other people, especially Leo risings, who have been feeling like they've been kind of caught in the crossfire of just drama with people all year. Watch for problems with spouses, romantic partners, and bosses. Something about bringing, maybe even like bringing a significant other to a holiday party, bringing a significant other to meet the parents may not go over so well. There can be some friction with Saturn square Uranus. So Saturn in your 7th house wants commitment, which is ironic, being that Uranus, it's in a Uranus ruled sign. And then you've got Uranus in your 10th, which is about status changes. So on the flip side, it can be things like, you know, you or a partner really want to move forward, but the other one's kind of resisting. They're not really showing up and pulling their weight in the relationship, or that you have a situation where you're breaking something off with somebody romantically or professionally. Thankfully, you also have Jupiter going into your 8th house. So I feel like that kind of softens the blow a little bit, where it's like, I do see that you have support from other people. I do feel like money is still going to come in. Let's say you go through a situation where it manifests as you quitting a job or you being let go. There may be a severance, or there may be like something they give you. They may pay you out for a period of time. I guess that's technically still a severance. Or maybe you have a continuation of your benefits until that happens. Watch for that. I mean, it does not surprise me, especially considering the fact that you have a Venus retrograde in your 6th house. So old habits, problems with coworkers, issues relating to work are all kind of popping up right now, giving you some insight as to where the conflict may be. I feel inclined to tell you that with the relationship stuff, I really feel like you're going to need until the 2nd half of January for it to work itself out, though. So be mindful of that. This can also be breakthrough. Saturn square Uranus can be breaking with tradition. You know, we're suddenly quickly getting married, or we're deciding to get engaged, and then we drop the news on our family. So it doesn't always have to be negative stuff. Knight of Cups is an offer. So this can be a proposal. This can be somebody who's like, I say we move in together. I say we buy a house. I say we have a kid. We get married. I mean, it's things that are as a result of wearing your heart on your sleeve. So this can also be somebody who tells you their hopes or their dreams for the future. They say, do you want to do this together? Do you want to move forward in this way? Very romantic, the Knight of Cups. I see it as also somebody who wants to finally tell you their true feelings, and maybe why they've been holding back, or where there's been resistance, or maybe somebody who's just very emotional who wants to share something with you that you were not aware of. All right, Virgo and Virgo rising, Saturn's in your 6th house of health, and Uranus is in your 9th house, which deals with travel, philosophy, beliefs. you know, all year you've been working really hard to get things in order. Keep your house up, have everything labeled, everything organized, be on top of maybe even your work schedule, feeling like you're implementing new systems, new softwares, new routines, and really focusing on your health. Think of this as the test, Virgo, as to whether or not you're staying on top of those goals, right? And where I feel like Uranus in your 9th house is saying, we need to get everything organized so that way everything's free flowing. You're not going to have to feel like you're doing so much busy work in the new year. Maybe you have adapted a new schedule, so you know you're working out certain days, or maybe you're making time for travel in other periods. Saturn square Uranus makes me feel like you may be working on Christmas or over the holidays. There can be some crisis going on at work and they call you and say, we need you to get on the server. We need you to respond to these emails. It can also materialize as some kind of crisis revolving around changes in your travel plans or how you are handling taking care of a pet amidst possibly traveling. Now, if you're working for a big company, there can be issues with lawsuits. So you may find that people are issuing lawsuits, or they're, you know, maybe suing your employer with Uranus in the 9th house, and that may kind of come down, you know, and everybody may start finding out about somebody who's rebelling against the company, and it's probably likely another employee. Jupiter's going into your 7th house. So that is wonderful for opportunities for relationships. And Virgo and Virgo risings have some of the best horoscopes next year when it comes to relationship, soulmate, marriage potential. The challenge is that you guys are going to keep meeting people who live farther away or at a distance. And so I feel like this change going on with your daily routine or your schedule or even your health is to prepare you so you have more flexibility, so you can kind of come and go and either travel to or from a partner or with them. We have 8 of Cups. I feel like this is about leaving bad habits behind, Virgo, you know, and adapting something new. I'm liking Uranus in your 9th house. Some of you guys are learning things, buying books, going through programs, training. Maybe you're becoming more serious also about matters of the heart with the retrograde right now. And you're like, I can't keep working the same job day in, day out. Like, this isn't feeding my soul. I need to figure out what makes me happy. And I think about all the planets in your 5th house trining Uranus in your 9th. And what it's really saying is that you want to feel like you can do something more creative, or you can give more time or attention to something that you love, so you feel like you're getting out of the rat race. So part of the Saturn-Uranus square is leaving behind bad habits, drinking, smoking, overeating, overthinking, over-worrying, stressing out. We're leaving that behind. When this card comes up, I always tell my clients, like, we're not looking in the rearview mirror. We're not going back there. We're moving away from this. And for some of you, I think it's literally dietary related or old emotions that you're clearing out of your system that you no longer want to carry with you into the new year. All right, so we've got now Libra and Libra rising. Saturn's in your 5th house, which deals with joy, creativity, children, and Uranus is in the 8th house, which deals with other people and joint resources. Okay, Libra, here's the thing. For you, with this final square, to me, it feels like you've been investing either your own resources or your own energy or whatever into stuff that maybe started as a hobby, but now it's taking on like a life of its own. So the 5th house is what we give birth to, whether it's actual children or projects or things that we really love doing, and it's very personal. So there's been this friction between Saturn in your 5th and Uranus in the 8th all year. A lot of single Libras have been saying they've had issues dating, that they've been really kind of bummed out because it's materialized as social separation with Saturn square Uranus, not being able to date or have sex with other people. Others are saying it's been this frustration and delays in pregnancy or getting pregnant, being at odds with a partner about whether or not you're going to have children, maybe being at odds with how you're spending money, and seeing the potential of like actually investing, because the 8th house can be investments. So look at whatever has happened all year with that square, and finally you're having like a breakthrough moment. Definitely those of you guys who are single or in situationships, Christmas may be the defining moment. That's like, if I didn't hear from that person, if they're not reaching out to me, if they're not trying to merge with me, you can take it personally if you're not hearing from them at the end of the year. You do have Jupiter now that is going into your 6th house, which is going to put a real emphasis on better health, better routines. Your schedule is going to kind of get better organized. You may make more time regularly to do a little bit of work every day that you enjoy. So I feel like your hard work all year, if it's been trying hard to get pregnant, you may finally do that next year. If it's been trying hard to like launch something and like make it successful, you may be able to do that more often next year. You want to watch for Jupiter and Neptune in your 6th house though, Libra, because as those two come together, it's going to lose boundaries. So if you are somebody who likes to drink, who likes to party, who likes to have a good time, there can be too much of it. So moderation is key. And for Libra risings, especially with Venus retrograde, some of you guys, it may be some family members leaving the family, departing, letting go of emotional or psychological trauma relating to certain relationships within the family or the home base. 8 of coins. So this is talking about perfecting something, making something better. To me, this is like kind of saying like, okay, you have something valuable that you've like worked on all year, and now you're going to start seeing the return on that. So I think Uranus in the 8th house is like you're going to see an influx in money coming in, or resources, or people who are paying for services. This is also just saying like working hard. You know, the theme of 2022 is just a continuation of what we've done all year long. So I don't think you're going to slow down anytime soon, but you can adjust your schedule and find that you can make more time for fun if that's what you feel like you need. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, Saturn's in your 4th house of home and family and real estate. Uranus is in your 7th house of relationships and marriage. Oh my gosh, Scorpio, watch out for family and relationship drama. If you know there are certain family members that should not be in the room with your partner, don't leave them there. That's the best advice I can give you. Don't leave them there, because you may have a flare-up between a partner and a family member. There can also be things like maybe, you know, let's say one of your parents is still friends with an ex and they invite them to Christmas and they show up and you're like, why would you do this? That type of stuff. There can be strife with marital partners if you're married or if you're partnered, where it's like, do we have Christmas at our house or at your house? Or do we, it's like the division of time seems to be dramatic. And it's also about breaking with patterns. So you may find that both you and your partner, if you put your heads together, it can be things like, no, we're going to create new traditions. Maybe we're having Christmas at one place rather than another place, or we're celebrating New Year's here rather than there. And it's going to be hard to appease everybody this year is the one thing that I would tell you. And you may have some stuff revolving around having a conversation with a partner about making a change in the home, because Saturn's in your 4th, or where you guys are actually living. And I would say it's not the time to bring that up at Christmas dinner with the family or the holiday dinner with the family if you feel like it's going to upset them. Just wait until you get to about February or March. Now, Jupiter's moving into your 5th house. This is great for Scorpio and Scorpio rising. It's wonderful if you're self-employed. It's wonderful if you make videos and you do stuff online. It's really great also just for creativity. You're going to feel much more inspired with Jupiter and Neptune, especially if you're a Scorpio or Scorpio rising who can play instruments, or you're into music. You may be playing more music. You may be feeling more creatively inspired. You may be crafting or having hobbies that relate to more Piscean things. That's just going to make you happier and more productive. Obviously, the 5th house rules children. So a lot of Scorpios are going to get pregnant next year, and they're going to have kids, especially like right around March, April, May of 2022, when we have a stellium of planets that are moving through Pisces. So you may notice the ingress that there's just more of an uptick talking about children, talking about pregnancy. If you're single, it'll be things like finding somebody, falling in love, and really falling in love with something next year. So being that Jupiter's going to be in a water sign, it's very emotional. The sun, yeah. It's kiddos. And you know, the Saturn square Uranus can definitely be things like, well, do we move so we can get a bigger house, so we can have kids, like, or more space for our creative projects? That's another way to look at it. But the sun card is also saying, like, as you approach some of this, it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be exciting. Notice that, you know, the kid is sitting on the horse and he's coming in and he's bringing the message of warmth and creativity and joy. So maybe where there's been strife talking about that, it's going to be more kind of like, but wouldn't it be fun? And this is what we can do. And whether it's like decorating a space that you're going to use creatively as a craft room, or decorating what may ultimately be a nursery, it's about bringing happiness and joy into that space and it being an exciting thing. Okay. So for Sag and Sag rising, this is Saturn in your 3rd house of communication, cars, vehicles, travel. And this is Uranus in your 6th house of daily routines, health, and pets. I feel like Sagittariuses are going to have to kind of do a bit of a balancing act in a way when it comes to traveling. You may have issues with vehicles or change in your plans. Some of you guys are trying to decide whether or not you want to move, and maybe you're cleaning and organizing things, waiting for Jupiter to go into Aries, which will be, or actually, excuse me, back into Pisces, which will manifest as some of you guys looking to move different places, spending more time with family too. Now, if you have pets and you're traveling and you're trying to figure out how to travel, that's the balancing act, or you're trying to figure out a way to really kind of wind down the year and clear your schedule and make it possible for you to move. Something about Saturn in your 3rd house of actual mobility or communication is in conflict with Uranus in the 6th, where either your schedule is changing, maybe you're traveling for the holidays and it's throwing off your diet or your health routine, and you're like, oh my God, I'm so used to eating a certain way or working out a certain way. You kind of get jolted and you don't know how to handle it. Watch out for pets who eat or swallow things, especially if you're leaving them with other people while you're traveling. It can manifest as there being some kind of pet crisis. A breakthrough when it comes to your health or wellness, and just how your day-to-day organization and your skills is helping you or hindering you when it comes to your 6th house. Now, Jupiter's moving into your 4th house, which is going to be great for if you want to move, if you want to expand your home, buy a new home, sell your home, move across the country, whatever. Wonderful. While Jupiter is in Pisces, it's going to be there for a number of months, so you may not see some of this stuff really change maybe until closer to March. So if you've been thinking about buying a home or expanding your home or your family, it's definitely a good time to do that. King of Wands. Awesome if you're a Sag. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. This is about basically taking control for creative purposes, being able to make magic happen, moving things around, orchestrating change, saying this is what I'm doing, this is what I want. It's a wonderful time to also just be focusing on what makes you feel inspired, because the King of Wands is just kind of like, I'm going to make this happen. And he does. It's just like poof. So it's really taking control of where you see your life going and what you see moving. Some of you guys can have some issues revolving around health with this square. So I would just say, like, manage your health, make sure that you're not having any issues with inflammation or any problems with fevers or anything relating to overly exerting yourself. Don't be trying to do any crazy new health regimen right now. We want to wait probably until we get to at least the new year before you do anything like that. And some of you guys also may feel like you're ready to start doing new things when it comes to work and really taking your creative process a lot more seriously. For Capricorn and Cap rising, you got Saturn in your 2nd house of resources and Uranus in your 5th house of lovers, creativity, and children. This is a huge push to get out all of your creative endeavors. If you have wanted to launch a business, if you've wanted to show your own personal talent for something, for writing, self-expression, for cooking, for gardening, if you are feeling that, you know, there is this uptick in just wanting to be more expressive, now is the time. Now, Saturn's in your 2nd house, making you feel a little tight on cash, which is squaring Uranus in the 5th, which makes you feel like I can't go ham in buying all of the craft goodies. I can't always go on all the fancy dates and dinners. But I feel like it's a breakthrough that's happening with your resources and you're investing more in yourself. Uranus is a sister sign when it's in Taurus. So I feel like there's these huge innovative changes happening with you, both with the retrogrades in your sign to your 5th house of self-expression, that I feel like what you will find in the new year is just your talents are just bursting at the seams, and you have all of these new innovative ways of maybe making money and sharing with other people, and you want to feel authentic, and you probably want to feel like you're in love, or you want to feel more romance with Uranus in your 5th house. There can be also stress relating to expenses with children, and or feeling like a crunch for time when it comes to children. I have seen that with that square as well. Now you've got Jupiter that's now moving into your 3rd house. So it's great for writing, teaching, going on short distance trips. Some Capricorns are going to decide to buy new cars in the new year. So that's wonderful. You may also decide that you want to get new things with screens, iPads, phones, stuff like that. You can save that until March. So if you want to wait until after the Mercury retrograde and you want to wait until like Mars and Venus go into Pisces, that can be another time where you can be looking at making new purchases for vehicles or tech. Ace of Swords. It's about writing, expressing yourself. Maybe you have a screenplay that you want somebody to look at. Maybe you started writing a book. Maybe you have a course that you want to launch. This is all coming out right now, but the thing is there's a lot of heavy retrograde energy and Pluto energy in your chart. So I feel like this is probably a breakthrough that's going to come right around Aquarius season when all the planets start moving into your 2nd house and you feel like you have something solid to hold on to. Equally, this can be an important conversation or a contract that comes up here shortly. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, Saturn's in your 1st house, Uranus is in your 4th. Wow, so you're feeling like you need to just break with your old life, start something new. There's huge changes going on either in your home life or in your family. Maybe you're thinking about moving or relocating. Maybe you're wanting to leave one place and the people who are in it, it could be your family, it can be your house, and you just wanting more freedom. With Saturn in your 1st house, also pay attention to what's going on with your body. There's a huge theme over the next month that's like how you feel in your skin, if you feel like you have enough independence, if you have a sense of authority in your own life. It may be rubbing roommates or partners or family the wrong way with this square. So you may not feel like hunkering down and spending a lot of time over the holidays with your family. You may want out of the house, quite literally. Ooh. I also see that you have Jupiter going into your 2nd house, which is really great for acquiring land, buying property, making more money, investments. It's going to be really wonderful for that. But I feel like you're very restless. Like Aquarius and Tauruses are definitely going to be some of the hardest people to kind of get on with over the next couple of weeks. And you know, Jupiter going into your 2nd house is going to have you investing in things and wanting to buy things or focusing more on bringing more money. So if you feel like you need time away from your family or family responsibilities or home responsibilities, or you're seeing opportunities to invest in things in other places, you're going to be like, I got to go. I can't be here dealing with this right now. This is too chaotic. Let me go handle what I need to handle, especially when it comes to money making opportunities. This card jumped out for you. It is really relating to structure and responsibility and what is tradition. So what's interesting is that this is very much about Saturn square Uranus, breaking with tradition. Some of you guys might decide, you know, I'm moving away from home, like I said, or I'm leaving, or I'm divorcing, or whatever. This is like more so the institution of what is structured and what is expected of you. And I feel like it's less about other people's expectations of you. It's more about your own. What is it you want to see happen for yourself? How are you holding yourself accountable? And how are you learning how to be more responsible for yourself? So then in turn, you can redefine your relationships with home and family. For me, I feel like you got to start with yourself first. When Saturn's in your sign, whether it's on your sun or it's on your ascendant, it all starts with you. And sometimes when you orchestrate those changes, people don't respond well to it, right? So people don't like boundaries. Jupiter in your 2nd house is looking good for money and resources. So really focus on self-esteem. That's very important right now. And not looking out for yourself, but looking out for what you're trying to bring in. And last but not least, we've got Pisces. So you've got Saturn in your 12th house and you've got Uranus in your 3rd. Pisces, this is mentally stressful and taxing. I'm not going to lie. It's a really great time to be focusing on meditation, rest, recuperation. You may feel a little separate from your friends. You may get some distressing emails or phone calls. There might be a lot of having to communicate and talking to a sibling about some stuff that's kind of happening. You may be more mobile now that Jupiter is going into your sign. So you're going to be either traveling more or you're going to be a lot more sensitive, a lot more intuitive. Jupiter is associated with your house of career. So for that to be hitting your ascendant or your sun sign, there's going to be expansions in your career, but your responsibilities as well, and more of being seen is kind of the way that I see it. But Saturn in their 12th house squaring Uranus in the 3rd is sudden unexpected travel or downloads that you're getting and insight. walking, journaling, meditating, all of these things are going to be really helpful for managing stress between these two houses, especially if there's like fear of your intuition telling you things that are not going to be easy things to handle, and it prompts a lot of like stress with your nervous system. Watch for important conversations that I think that you're going to have with siblings or other extended family, so you have a plan. So like, let's say, God forbid, something's going on with the family, preemptively, you know who's going to be there and how you would be able to plan getting to them if they live in another place, type of stuff. Keep your phone on, check your email quite a bit over the next couple of weeks, just so that way you're not missing any messages. Take time to check out and really tune in, because Jupiter is going to help you go deep and be aware of what's coming. All right, so last but not least, what's your card? The Lovers. Choices and options. This is also very much Uranus that's hanging out in your third. Do I do this or do I do that? Keep your options open. Practice communicating what you love and what you want to bring in or what you value. I think that's very important for you. And also realize that this is going to be a period where there can be a lot more opportunities to make money through your voice, communicating, writing, sharing, and you may bring somebody in that's of high romantic interest as a result of that as well. Next week, or I guess in this next week, I'm going to see if I can do a live. Stay tuned for that. I'll put that up. It should be astrology this week, I believe. If you haven't already, join my subscriptions. It makes it possible for me to keep doing what I'm doing. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I've been here back on YouTube for almost a year now. We're coming up on it pretty soon, so I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch, but I'm really appreciative of everybody who takes time to watch, like, comment, share, subscribe, and donate to make this channel possible. Thank you so much. Check out the new Midheaven podcast, all about cap season, if you guys are interested in that. And catch me on New Year's Day live. I'm going to be here on YouTube talking about all the astrology of 2022. I've got some special surprises for you guys and some stuff that you probably aren't expecting to see. So make sure you subscribe. My 2022 bookings are open, so you can check out my website below at beyondtheveiledtarot.com. Check out my social medias too if you would like to stay on the up and up with me and what I'm doing, and also all of my astro memes. You guys enjoy the week. Have happy holidays, and I will catch you soon right before the new year, and we're going to talk all about what's coming January next month. Until next time, I'll see you soon. Take care.